Yes, ChatGPT 5 launched on the 7th of August, but is it any good now for writing emails, doing the kind of stuff that you and I do to make sales of our coaching program, our courses, and some of our expertise? Well, I'll tell you now, this is the second time I'm actually making this video, because when I first made it, when it first came out, it was a shit show. And of course, all the guys at OpenAI came out and said, oh, we've had some problems, and so I thought it's only right that I do it justice. I'm going to do some proper testing with you and show you, have things really improved? Can it do a better job of selling stuff by email? Yes, it's supposed to have PhD level smarts, this multimodal support where it actually picks which model it's supposed to work for the task you give it, but for various phases of doing email marketing, will it work more effectively? Let's see. So to properly test GPT-5, one of the good things that I'm really pleased with is OpenAI allowed us to also use some of the legacy models. So I am going to be testing GPT-5 against 4.0, which was the most popular model that most of us were using in order to brainstorm, research, and of course, write first drafts of emails. I'm going to be really doing a deep dive with a special scoring system, a 17-point scoring system that I've come up with in order to see if it's a better writer for our emails. And even if you don't use AI to write your emails or write your first draft of your emails, then I think you'll be really curious to see what these 17 points that I look at are with writing really good emails. What makes a really good email? But let's get into it. So what I've done in order to look at whether 4.0 or 5 writes better copy is I've come up with this 17-point system of all the different things that make a good email. And for each of these, I'm going to score it out of 10. 10 being, it's bloody great. 0 being, what the fuck, okay? And it'll tot it up and we'll see unequivocally what we think. When I say unequivocally, I mean with my biases and my opinion, about what we actually think is working better, 4.0 or 5, okay? And we'll get through, I'm not going to walk you through what all these are right now. We'll get through them as we get through them. So let's look at the prompt I gave both 4.0 and 5. Again, the same prompt. You are a direct response style email copywriter. Write a 200-word email to online coaches who are struggling to sell their courses. The email should promote a free live class that shows them how to sell more using email. The goal is to get them to register for the class. Class is titled How I Increased Sales from 27,000 to 500,000. Same offer, same audience. It's happening on Tuesday. So let's go through and see if the subject line it's suggested is getting attention is the first piece of this. So 27K to 500K without changing your offer. I would say that gets attention. I'm going to give that a 9 because I'm British and I'm skeptical. I'm not going to start off with a 10. Let's compare 5. So same exact prompt from 27K to 500K without changing your offer. It's pretty much the same thing. I would say this is a bit more wordy. It's got a little bit of verbal diarrhea and it's also put in the M dash. It's going to lose a point for that. I'm going to give that a 7. I'm going to take 2 points off for the fact that's a pretty long subject line. It's going to get cut off. It hasn't really thought about the fact it's an email subject line. It needs to be seen on mobile, which is when most people are reading their emails. All right, next point. Is the subject line relevant to the audience? In both cases, they're both exactly the same. Basically, it's about increasing sales. I would say it's very relevant to the audience. I'm going to give that a 9 for both of them. So at the minute, 4.0 is winning by 2 points because of the attention thing. Okay, what about the desire to open? They're very similar. So again, I would say they're about a 9 each. Quite a lot of desire to open. The only thing it might do is look a little bit hypey. So actually, I'm going to knock off 1 point for each of those things. Okay, and also it doesn't really make it very current, like why open it right now? Okay, interesting. So the next part is for both 4.0 and 5, the hook or opening of the email. Is there fast engagement? Hey, if an online coach and your course isn't selling like it should, but you know it's good, okay, fast engagement, I think that really appeals and speaks to the conversation that's happening in someone's head. I'm going to give that a lovely number 8. I don't think it's the most interesting or exciting opening hook. Here we go. Most coaches think the only way to make more sales is to, see, 5 has really made that like you're doing this wrong, making it their fault, which is just not that good. So I'm going to actually give that a 6. Does it keep the loop open? And what I mean by that is there's a promise in the subject line. Is that loop just fulfilled, which means early in the email, which means they're going to stop reading? So the promise is from 27K to 500K without changing your offer. 5 is saying most coaches do this thing. The loop is definitely left open. So I would say, yes, the loop is open, but it's not intensified. Oftentimes, I want to intensify the open loop, the curiosity. This one, 27, so this is 4.0, 27K to 500K. If you're saying an online course and it's not selling like it should, but you know it's good. So I think they both keep it open, but they don't intensify. So I would say it's a 6. To intensify it, you really want to show why it's more important than ever and why it's more frustrating. Like you want to intensify the emotion. That's not happening. So I'm going to give them both a 6. So 4.0 is still winning by 4 points at this point. Okay, dokie. So message. Is it easy to read? Now let's read the actual rest of the email. So 4.0 says, if you're an online coach and your course isn't selling like it should, but you know it's good, you don't need a better offer. You don't need more leads and you don't need a big funnel. That's really punchy. I like how that rolls. You need to learn how to sell it better using email. Okay, that's quite out of the blue. Just do this. This Tuesday, I'm running a free live class called title of the thing, and it's got that correct. I didn't change my course. I didn't spend more on ads. It's very punchy. I think that's pretty easy to read. Even if your list is small, even if it is using this 3 punch thing, which is kind of boring over and over again. So I might mark it down for that in a second or something else. But is it easy to read? Yes, I would say it's easy to read. Is it no fluff? I would say yes, but it is trying to do too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it here for 9 for no fluff, because it's not really fluffy, but I am going to mark it down for, let's see, I'll mark it down for stays to the brief, because the brief, it should be 1 email. So I'm going to mark that one down to a 7, because actually maybe even a 6, because it has like objections in it. It's got a lot going on. What about the emotional language? I didn't change my course. It doesn't really have anything. This is anything emotional. This is for online courses who are done guessing. This is kind of emotional. I don't think it's super emotional. I think it's about a 6 emotion wise. Does it sound human? I think it's a 7? No, 6 for humanness. Benefits, not just features. Okay, so it does talk about you need to sell more of this thing. It's very much about them. Then it gives you some proof, and then I would think it's quite benefit laden, I would say. Call to action. 1 call to action. Save your seat for Tuesday here. So it's got the date, the fact it's there on Tuesday. Insert registration link, and there is only 1 of them, so that couldn't be any more than that, really. Is there a clear benefit? This is for online coaches who want to do this thing. I would say it's a pretty clear benefit. I would try, if I wanted to make it better, I would actually make the link itself have a benefit in it. And is it well located? Yeah, I mean, the email's not super long. It's at the bottom. It's not the best located. I would have put one maybe halfway up as well. So I'm going to give it a number 8. Visual layout. I think it's got very short paragraphs. I think it probably couldn't be any better. So I am going to give that a 10. Are there varying lengths in the paragraphs? I would say it hasn't done a good job of that. It looks a bit like a poem that you would read at school. So I am going to mark it down to a 7 for that. And is it useful? What's my likelihood I would send this? As it is, 7? Like, if I had to, if it was like this or death, I would probably go with it. Okay, let's see how the rest of it compares for 5. So far, GPT 4.0 has a score of 134. Cool. That's basically, remember, that's out of 170. That's out of 170, because there's 17 of these, and I'm giving up to 10 points for each thing. So the second one, GPT 5, let's see if it's improved. So, is it easy to read? Most coaches think the only way to make more sales is to do this and do this and do this. This is entering the conversation in their mind, but I really don't like that it's sort of going, you're thinking this and you are wrong. That's a really tough pill for most people to swallow. I didn't do any of that. Oh, bully for you. What a knob. You sound like a proper show-off dickhead. Not really happy about that, but I'm not judging that for now. I kept the same exact offer to the same exact audience and went from 27K in sales to over 500. How? Email. On Tuesday, I'm running a free live class where I'll walk you through the simple shifts that made it happen. You'll see why your course isn't selling as much as it could, the 3 biggest mistakes coaches make with sending their emails, how to fix them. This is very, very, very easy to read. Seats are limited. If you're tired of watching others sell out their programs, this is is easier to read than the other one, okay? I'm actually going to mark this one down, and I'm going to mark this one up. I'm going to say this is a 10 for ease of read. No fluff. I think it's got a lot of fluff. It is fannying on with all of this stuff, which just isn't great. So I think that's probably a 7. Lovely. Stays to the brief. It doesn't go off any random ways. It does sort of, I really hate the fact that it did this. That's just a copywriting technique, so I'm going to drop that down for a score in the persuasion section. Stays to the brief. I'm going to mark it about an 8 because it doesn't really veer off too much. Persuasion, emotional language, benefits, sounds human. Well, benefits, I think it hasn't done a great job of because it's mostly saying you're doing this badly, I'm doing this great, rather than saying this is why this would be better for you. Although there is a huge section here about these are the benefits to you, so maybe I'm going to take that back. I'm going to mark it probably about the same. Emotional language, I kept the same offer. How Tuesday isn't about writing daily value emails. Well, emotionally, actually, this is if you cast pissing off the audience and getting their attention through doing that. It is kind of emotionally evocative. So I'm actually going to give this a 7, not because I like the emotion, but because there is some. Does it sound human? Most coaches think anyway. I think it sounds very human, actually. Email. This comes out of the blue again. It's like in both cases, I haven't told it to ignore my knowledge base. So it should know that I always talk about email. So it shouldn't be like, da-da, email's the big trick. Like, no shit, Sherlock, really? Like, it's like me suddenly showing up to this channel and going, hey, today we're going to talk about this thing called email. Now, what email is? Like, what, really? Like, that's what people are here for. Apart from that, why your course isn't selling as much as it could. Like, I love all the softening language. I think it's really very, very good. I'm going to go 8 there. Call to action. One call to action. Is it doing that? Yes. It doesn't try and go, hey, I've got a blog post over here about this and I've got a YouTube channel about that. It does keep it to one call to action, so I can't argue with the 10 on that. Is there a clear benefit? Seats are limited. I like the urgency around that. And here's all the benefits here. That really couldn't be any better. And I think it's doing a better job than the other email. Is the call to action well located? It's very far down and it's a fairly lengthy email. I'm going to give it, but it's not as long as the other one and it drives, I'm going to score that similar. 8. Am I doing 8.5? It's slightly better. I am going to do 8.5 on that one. I think it's slightly better than the other one. Short paragraphs. Yes, I think it's doing a good job of short paragraphs. Varying sentence and paragraph length, it's doing a much better job. If you compare it to 4.0, where this looks like a poem, this is much more like a human wrote it in its lengths. I would say it's doing a good job. Very, very good job. Likelihood for me to send it, I'd feel a little uncomfortable about this, but I have seen ads that are working by saying most coaches think this and starting off with the conversation in their head. I am more likely to send this one than I am the 4.0, just out of the box. I'm going to give it an 8. Let's see where the numbers stack up. So the final score, and I was purposely not really looking at this out the corner of my eye, it looks like GPT-5 does a better job based on these benchmarks than 4.0 did. Isn't that really, really interesting? Now, one of the things I did try and do after it wrote this is I then asked it to now think deeply and rewrite a more emotionally exciting version to try and get the emotions up a bit more. But then it sort of turned it into more of a poem, and I don't think it's that good. That was basically trying to force it to use a more deep thinking model, but when it thinks more deeply, it turns out people who think deeply like to write poems. It thinks. So the fact that GPT-5 decides of its own accord which model it should use and then brings in the best model for what you've asked it to do, I would say is working better than 4.0 because the objections it came up with were slightly better, much more real time about rather than like seem to be like cached things that 4.0 was doing. And we scored the output for an email writing in particular at like basically 8, 7, 6, 5, 5.5, can't do math, 5.5 points higher based on these 17 checkpoints. So yes, I think OpenAI, understandably, are launching this idea of GPT-5, that it's going to select the best model so it can be more efficient. They're probably going to save some money rather than people going and using a really powerful, expensive model for really simple tasks. This will get simple tasks done by using a cheaper model. They're going to save some money there. But one of the things I really like about it is, I don't know about you, but I don't really understand the difference between the different models and what I should use different models for. So when there's that drop down with like, do you want to use O3 Mini, O4, 3.4, 3 point, I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like I shouldn't need to. So again, another lovely thing about GPT-5 is you don't need to know. You just ask it the question you want to ask it, and it decides which model is going to be best served to actually position you. So that's really, really interesting. What it produced here, though, was actually really pretty good. And I think if you add in, and one of the things I haven't tested on this video, but I will in the future, is I want to test how well it keeps to knowledge base and longer instructions, longer prompts, and that kind of thing, adding in personality and that kind of thing. I would say it's much more provocative and evocative. I would say it's a much more interesting model. A lot of people said when it first came out, and actually in the first version of this video that I made, my main criticism was it was really bloody bland, right? But the positive of that is it wasn't constantly like buttering me up like an overly nice, sickly person. But I think they've really fixed that. And I think when I was making the first video, that's when they're having the problems, when the routing selector, the thing that selects which model it should use, they say it wasn't working. It completely blew up. So it looks like now that that's fixed, it's actually doing a much better job. So I'm pretty impressed with this, and I'm going to do a lot more testing with it. I definitely recommend that you do. I think this is a really, really good model. And if you want to see how I actually train ChatGPT, all the models, to sound much more like you, the things that I put in place, then this video right here is definitely going to be something you're going to want to check out. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, like the video. And what I would really love to do is read in the comments below what you think of the new GPT-5. Do you think it's better for what you're doing with it? Or do you think it's not as good? Do you think it's worse? I would love to just read whether it's better, and then just tell me a little bit about what it is you're doing with it and what you found it to be better for. Or if it's worse, just write worse and the use case of what you're doing with it that you found it to be worse with. I'd really, really love to read them. That's it. I'll see you later.